there's growing concern that some schools may not be meeting the legal requirement to remain open for a sufficient number of days each year. A critical issue with real implications for students' education. But here's where it gets controversial. The Ministry of Education has uncovered evidence suggesting that certain schools have been operating for fewer instructional days than required by law. According to documents obtained through the Official Information Act, these documents also reveal that the ministry is gearing up for a strict enforcement campaign. Starting next year, they plan to closely monitor schools' compliance and place limits on how many days schools can choose to close during the current year. However, the situation is far from clear-cut. The Secondary Principals Association has publicly questioned the ministry's evidence, arguing that their interpretation of what counts as being open for instruction is flawed. The association even has legal advice suggesting the ministry's stance may be legally questionable. Earlier this year, they warned that the ministry's interpretation would be very difficult for schools to manage effectively. Delving into the details, the documents, dated August and September of last year, indicate that the ministry had already gained ministerial approval to address issues related to non-compliance around school-initiated closures, such as teacher-only days, TODs. These are days when schools close for staff-related activities rather than regular student instruction. By law, schools must be open for a set number of half-days annually. These half-days are defined as periods of 2 hours or more, during which compulsory, organized learning takes place for all students, and teachers are available. For the current year, primary schools need to be open for at least 382 half-days, while secondary schools must meet a minimum of 376. Schools can close for teacher-only days initiated by their boards, but with the obligation to make up those days either at the beginning or end of the school year. Closures mandated by the education minister don't usually require make-up days. According to the documents, many schools have not followed these rules carefully. The ministry suspects a widespread misunderstanding because the reasons given for closing have become increasingly varied and frequent. Often without adequate notice to families, now, there's also uncertainty about whether schools are properly making up missed half-days. Historically, in the 1990s and early 2000s, schools could close during term time with ministerial permission for special events like show or gala days. But now, the reasons boards use to justify term time closures are far more diverse, ranging from sports days and parent-teacher interviews to open days, orientations, prize-giving ceremonies, field days, agricultural shows, remembrance of local historical events, special character activities, and even tangi, funerals. The documents suggest that tangi or funerals might require a different approach, especially when all staff and students attend and the school cannot open. The ministry proposes handling such exceptions on a case-by-case basis through consultation with the local Timaha office. To tackle this confusion, the ministry plans to create clearer guidelines because open for instruction is not clearly defined in the existing regulations. This lack of definition has led some schools to count days when only certain year groups attend as full open days, which technically doesn't meet the requirement. Under new measures, schools will be allowed to close during term time for 4 curriculum-related half-days and an additional 4 half-days at the discretion of their boards. A handwritten note in the documents clarifies that schools may close for 2 full days, which must be made up, and 2 curriculum half-days that do not require makeup. Any further closures would require an application to the minister, supported by meeting specific criteria or scheduling catch-up days. Moreover, schools must now provide their communities with at least 6 weeks' notice before a closing day, ensuring families aren't caught off guard. Louise Anarau, president of the Secondary Principals Association, challenged the ministry's claim that some schools are not making up for these closure days. She described the ministry's evidence as lacking credibility and largely based on opinion. Anarau suggests the ministry should directly engage with the individual schools in question, rather than penalize the entire education sector. She also highlighted that the new interpretation of open for instruction does not align with common school practices such as the 6-week study leave period during final exams, when many schools are not officially open for all students. Additionally, other routine events, like staggered start days for different year groups, welcome ceremonies, pohiri, and parent-teacher conferences mean schools usually close or operate at reduced capacity on several days per year. It's really just impossible to comply with these new requirements, Anna Rao said. In the context of senior exams and study leave, there simply wouldn't be enough days in the school year to catch up. She emphasized that schools are constantly seeking additional teaching time for their students and are not attempting to reduce classroom learning time deliberately. The situation reflects a concerning atmosphere of low trust between schools and the ministry. Currently, the association is awaiting more detailed guidelines from the ministry before deciding how to proceed or respond on behalf of its members. This unfolding story raises important questions. Are the ministry's strict rules and new interpretations fair or overly burdensome? Could stricter enforcement improve education quality, or will it merely strain already busy schools and communities? We invite you to share your thoughts and experiences. Do you agree with the ministry's stance, or do you think the school's concerns are valid? Let's start a conversation.